So I haven't done one of these in a while. And there's some reasons for that. First one, I'm on a metered connection, so uploading videos and stuff is not very easy. And also not a lot has happened. One good thing did happen, which is I got into a Spanish class. Government gave me a Spanish class, which was very intense, sort of crash course, I suppose, with 2 hours a day. And also I cut ties with my relatives. I call them relatives because I realize now that they were never my family. And I noticed something. Usually when I'm around people, it triggers my fight or flight response. It freaks me out. I try to avoid making noise, try to avoid being visible, try to avoid talking to people or have them notice me. I just have instincts to avoid people. I guess I associate them with danger. And when I just completely stopped talking to my relatives, that started disappearing. And all these people at Spanish class are really nice and stuff, and I'm it's not like I've had any breakfast club moments or anything. It's not like I've gotten to know people on a big deep level or whatever, but I go into that classroom and they're just sort of people, say hello to some of them, some of the familiar faces who sort of sit near me on the tables nearby. I talk to people. Even at soup kitchen, I've started talking more to people, and I noticed a difference, and I realized how I guess how utterly abusive my relatives were. They were just awful people, to be honest. They were always making fun of my disability. I remember whenever it got bad, like I had a sensory shutdown or something, or I felt really bad, my uncle would record it on his phone, and him and my aunt would sit at home and sort of laugh about it later. Just sociopaths, honestly. I'm not even joking. I try to think back to just a lifetime of discussions, try to think back to any moment when they ever mentioned or expressed any kind of empathy for anyone, and I couldn't, ever. Like if something happens on the news, like there's an earthquake in Haiti or something, to just give a racist comment about it or something. I don't care about anyone. And I just realized that I've been around these dangerous antisocial people, several of whom are criminals, really bad criminals, just these dangerous people, and it gave me these instincts to fear other humans. And when I got rid of that, it's like my world has changed a lot. I still have a lot of pain. Got some bad luck with the doctor. The physician that was assigned to me at the clinic is just awful, to be honest. Just doesn't like people with autism. Gives us a lot of hard time. Coercive treatment, negligence, document fraud. What's it called? Retaliatory diagnosis. Just a lot of nasty things. But I built a big legal case and I reported it to the government, and I'm pretty sure they're going to get rid of the medical license. So that's fun. I'm fighting an eviction notice. That's annoying. But thankfully, there's a housing crisis. Well, thankfully, but in the immediate context of this, there's a housing crisis. So the courts are completely overloaded, and they can't evict people properly, which is fortunate, I suppose. At least for now. Big picture wise, it's horrible. Obviously, there's so many people sleeping on the streets. It's you see them everywhere. It's awful. But at least I got shelter. In that sense, it's good. But obviously, I feel bad for everyone who's out there struggling. It's just one guy I walk past sometimes, and all he ever does is sleep. He's got a blanket, and he just goes up against the wall, just sits up against the wall, and he just sleeps all day, because he's so miserable, he's got nothing else in his life, so he's just sleeping, hoping that his dreams is better than reality. It's awful, I wish someone would help people like that. I would if I could, but I'm kind of broke. But I think, in some ways it is getting better, and in some ways it's difficult with the lack of access to healthcare, because I do get a lot of pain, but it is what it is, I suppose. But I noticed that, like I realized now that one big problem for me was that I kept being exposed to my relatives who were just very bad people. I mean, they've done like awful things. They've committed terrible crimes. Probably ruined hundreds of lives, maybe thousands. I don't know, but they've done some nasty things, and I just I never realized something, and I think that's something a lot of people with autism need to watch out for, because I noticed that pattern a lot, and that's what I call forced uselessness, which is basically when you're dealing with abusive family members who they never give you a chance to like prove yourself or do anything. They want you to be dependent on them. They never allow you a chance to be independent. It's always them doing things for you. You're not allowed to do anything. They never give you like a chance in any way. Two of my relatives are business owners. Never once did they offer me a job. In fact, when I asked them for one, I mean they acted like I asked them for like the deed to their house or something. Like that was just way out of line. Like I was completely crazy for asking for a job. You know that thing where you make money for other people? They acted like that was a charitable act, and I was like just crazy and entitled for wanting to work. Like they got pretty toxic about it. They told me about like how I was being selfish, how I was being entitled, how I was being arrogant, all these things, like how dare you ask for an opportunity to work in a society where most employment is based on nepotism and people with disabilities have very few opportunities. How would you possibly dare to ask a business owner you're related to for a job? Like, it just boggles my mind. But on the plus side, that means that I'm not involved in any criminal stuff. So I guess in a way they did me a favor, even if they didn't realize it. But I just mean that thing of forced uselessness. Like any time I asked for like a small favor so I could become more independent, so I could do something, and also always do something in return as well. Like it was always a big no. Like it was always like, are you crazy? How dare you ask? Like they were. That's why I don't call them my family, because family, they look out for each other. If and there's like a reciprocal kind of thing, but they never did that. It was always like it was kind of perverse how they treated me, because any kind of social occasion or hangout or anything, it was kind of a creepy, sort of almost voyeuristic interrogation. Like they just wanted to know how miserable I was, just ask questions about how difficult things are and how I'm not figuring things out. They wanted to know about the latest things I've tried and failed at. And anytime I achieved anything, they would be like, they would always minimize that achievement. They would always act like it didn't matter, like it was nothing, like I was stupid for even bringing it up, like it mattered. Any time I said, oh look, I learned something new today, or I'm learning this thing, or I'm working on this project, it was always met with like derision or silence, or like a veiled sort of insult or something. Like and I realize now why, is because truth is they probably are on the antisocial personality spectrum. And like I'm not a psychiatrist. If I were to take a guess, it would be they'd probably be like sociopaths or something, because like they genuinely don't feel empathy and have done like awful things to people, like the sort of things you can't do when you have like a moral conscience. So they're probably something like that. And also they're very happy to lie. They have no emotions, like at my mum's funeral, my granddad just didn't care. Like he couldn't care in the slightest that his daughter died. Like, I mean, she was a horrible person, but you'd figure he would have some kind of reaction, but just nothing. Same thing with my uncle. Like just robots, basically. Very creepy. And I think the reason why they treat people like, or they get abusive towards family members who aren't like them is really just because I suspect the worst thing you can do to a sociopath is to make them spend time with themselves. Like their existence is completely hollow. They have no internal experience whatsoever. They have no feelings, no creativity. They're empty inside, and that's why they need constant external stimulation. And making other people feel pain is one of the ways that they get stimulated. It gives them some kind of reward, not necessarily an emotional reward like you and I do, but probably some kind of brain chemicals go off that make them feel something similar to excitement. And I think the reason why they abuse relatives who aren't like them is because they get to live vicariously through us. They can't be creative, but I can. And the closest thing they can come to creativity is just sabotaging someone else, seeing them feel pain, seeing them feel bad, or feeling ashamed, or feeling like they're worthless, and that gives them a weird kind of vicarious experience. They somehow get to explore that side of people, which they probably envy a great deal, because no matter how much these people have, no matter what their material gains they have or whatever, like they will never truly accomplish anything on their own, because they can't really develop a frame of reference for when it comes to things like creativity, when it comes to problem solving. Like they're always trapped in this very empty mechanistic worldview where they really have nothing at their disposal besides very simple modal logic and trial and error and repetitiveness. So that's why I suspect they abuse people, because they have to be parasites. A sociopath can't invent things. They can only get someone else to invent something and then steal credit for it. And we see that a lot in history. We see a lot of inventors who have their patents stolen by people who are very dishonest. Thomas Edison comes to mind, and Alexander Graham Bell as well. So a lot of people like that have been outed. Elon Musk, another one. So I think it's sort of an extension of their parasitism, because they're not quite human in the end. They're just a sort of predatory version of us, and they can't be us. They can only mimic us. And yeah, I think that's why they abuse people. So if you're in that situation, if you got awful family who have a few screws loose, who do awful things, who act violent, who take advantage of people, who lie and cheat and steal to get by, if they're abusive towards you, just take heart in the fact that you're not worthless. The reason why they're making you feel worthless is really because of their own sort of weird envy, right? Because you have something that they will never have. You'll live an infinitely richer life than they ever will. No matter how much money they have, no matter how much power they have, they're only a tenth of the person you are, And I've realized that. We're not surrounded by dangerous parasites all the time. Life isn't that scary. People aren't that scary. Strangers even aren't that scary. So I'm just saying, if you feel like you can never talk to anyone, if you're always feeling scared by other people and the like, ask yourself, who are the people in your life that's making you feel that way? Because I didn't realize until, quite late in my life, You know, it took me many years to realize just how bad it was and how I need to get away from these people. Wish I'd done it sooner. So, you know, there's sort of autism survival tip of today. You know, consider a change of scenery if there are bad people in your life who are hurting you, because they do a lot more damage than you might think. And if you get rid of them, you'll start to feel better pretty quickly. And yeah, no, I have a newfound sense of hope, because I don't have to put up with those monsters anymore. And thanks to the social workers, I don't need them. They can't exploit vulnerabilities anymore. They can't, you know, take advantage of the stuff they did to me in the past to sort of sabotage me. Now I got a passport. I'm getting an education, like a real formal education, hopefully. I'm gonna do courses at the job center come fall. Like, I'm gonna do all these things. And job centers even talked about getting me work, you know, finally. And it just blew my mind away that, like, these people, they were kind of messing with my head on purpose, because this whole time they could have just helped me find social services. If they're so lazy and so hateful towards me that I'm not worth anything to them, they could have just told me what the social services are, but they didn't. In fact, they would often tell me that oh, social services doesn't work, you should never go there, it's a waste of time, you know, they'll just still do this and the other, they'll ask a bunch of questions and you'll fill in forms and it won't help you or anything. Total lie. They've been helping me with everything, and I feel foolish for trusting that kind of stupid advice. I see now why the reason why they told me to avoid social services, because, you know, with them I could be independent and never have to see these people again. So yeah, that's how it's going on now. I think things are going to be good, but right now it is tough. It's very tough, because I'm just flat broke all the time, and it's kind of tough when you're always missing the small things. You know, I don't need a lot in life, but it would be nice to just, you know, have a functional home, that sort of thing. You know, just the basic stuff like hot water or a working microwave. Although, to be honest, I kind of like cold water now. Kind of like cold water showers. It kind of makes sense to me now that I've acclimated. Like, I see where so many people in the third world don't really seem to complain much about hot water. Like, it is one of those things. Like, if you live without it, you're sort of fine. Like, it's not that bad, honestly, once you get used to it. It's kind of refreshing, you know, gets your adrenaline going, and after you've had a cold shower, your clothes feel super comfortable. Like, it's not bad at all, you know. And it's a good way to make yourself a bit more sort of mentally tough, I guess, you know, because you're kind of forcing yourself to do something uncomfortable. That can be good sometimes, you know, like, makes it easier when you're dealing with a challenging or tedious task, you know, you get that focus. That's good. But yeah, all in all, things are changing, and I guess, you know, change is one of those half glass full, half glass empty kind of things, you know. And I'm thinking it's half full. That's what I'm hoping for, and yeah, it keeps you going. I think it also keeps you going, which I should talk about, because this is about survival, is dignity. You should always maintain your dignity. You should always do, you know, no matter how bad you have it, no matter how low you are on the rung, you should always try to be sophisticated and intelligent. You should always be polite to people. You should always, you know, try to dress nice, try to present yourself, try to hold your head up high. Dignity is very important. I think one of the reasons why I see so many people give up is because they've lost their sense of dignity. And without that, you lose a big part of your motivation, and that really wears people down. And it's horrible that it has to be that way. You know, I don't think people should be required to be dignified to live a good and you know, equal life. You know, I think core foundation of democracy means there shouldn't be any poor people. And if there are poor people in democracy, then it's not a real democracy. Because, you know, how can people be in charge of a society when they can't even be in charge of their own lives? You know, I think we're still living in the Middle Ages if we have poverty in the world. but I just mean that dignity. It really helps, you know. I would sooner steal than beg, because one gives you more self-respect than the other. I would never steal from people, though, only corporations. But and thankfully I haven't had to. But I'm just saying I would if it came to it. Like, yeah, if you hold on to your dignity, you'll do a lot better than if you don't. And it's about the little things. It's about reading books, about you know, learning new things, about filling your mind, you know. And like even people in very bad poverty, at least in my part of the world, have access to the internet. You know what I mean? There's always ebooks. There's always, you know, classical music. There's always even your own music. You know, buy a harmonica, whatever. Like play an instrument, do something like that. Just keep the fire in your soul from going out. You know, keep the dignity, and you'll always be motivated to fight. That's something I've learned. And with that, I guess I'll end this entry before it gets too long. Hope everyone's doing okay.